What's up everyone, Alan Morrow here and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created a certain lead that I posted on my Facebook page the other day. I had a lot of comments asking how it was kind of created, so I'm going to go through exactly that process today and show you exactly how it was kind of built. But before we get into the video, if you are looking for tips and tricks like this to help you with your trance productions, then be sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell. And if you'd like to support the channel, then you can head over to alanmorrowstudios.com, where there's plenty of in-depth trance production courses, start to finish courses, templates, MIDI, sample packs, and all these sorts of things to help you with your trance productions. So let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm going to play the lead sound that I created. Again, I just had a bit of a quick melody wrote to it. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the one that I use, but it kind of fit for the sort of sound that I was kind of going with. So let's have a little play through. All that is there is the one lead sound and then a sub pad underneath to kind of fill out that kind of low end whilst I was getting the ideas together. Now, before I go and open up the synth, I want you to understand that obviously the synth that I'm using is Zebra 2, so don't all just quickly jump off and go, oh, I haven't got Zebra 2, I can't use this tutorial, because there's still going to be a lot that you can kind of learn from how this is built up in terms of the oscillators and the filters and stuff like that. And yes, every synth kind of has different oscillators and filters, but there's still a lot of sort of the backbone to what I'm trying to do here, which you could then go off and do in your synth. You know, if you have Zebra 2, great. You can kind of follow along, but if not, take the ideas that I'm using and go and put it inside your synth, and you could even create a better sound. So yeah, let's go into it anyway and show you exactly how it's kind of created. Now, I'm just going to solo this for a second. I'm going to solo this, and I'm also going to, let's remove this so we've got a bit more sort of isolation there, and you can see exactly the synth. So the way that I kind of build a Trance Lead layer, or Trance Lead patch like this, is I'll start off with the idea that I kind of want to do. Now, with this, it was kind of like I want a big bandpass filter style sort of lead sound, but I'm also very aware if I was to just do that with kind of one oscillator, as it starts to sweep through the filter, as it goes to the higher parts of the filter, it's going to lose some of the low end in there, depending on the bandpass settings that you've kind of got. So what I've got here is 4 oscillators, and I'm going to go through each one of them. I'm going to show you exactly kind of how it would have been built from the ground up. So I'm going to turn all these off, right? Actually, before I do that, I want to let you hear it without the kind of effects on there. So this is with the effects. And then with the effects off. So you can kind of hear that the effects are obviously doing quite a lot to this sound. And when it comes to building a sound myself, I will always kind of start off with one oscillator, and I'll add a few little effects to it, because it's very uninspiring for me when I try to create a patch without any kind of delay or reverb on there. So what I'll do is I'll leave the filter on, the main one, so I can sweep through the filter as you start to hear it. I'll turn all the other effects off that aren't delay and aren't reverb, just so it's got that little bit of sort of delay and atmosphere to it, so it's not just playing with dry sounds. It's just a lot more inspiring for me when I come to create these sounds. So the first oscillator, as I say, was the bandpass big saw sound that I kind of wanted. So first off, what we've got here is we've got Oscillator 2. It's four voices, a bit of vibrato there. Okay, so that's it on its own. Now if I turn this filter off, and what you'll kind of see here is a lot of people kind of get confused by Zebra 2, but once you start to actually get used to it, I actually find it's quite easy to sort of map, because you can physically build it yourself, build the actual elements in where you want them and have them, you know, like I just like the way it kind of works in building it in this way, because I can organize it. Now, it obviously didn't start off this organized as I was building it, I was just getting ideas together, but you can see here I've kind of got Oscillator 1, which is lower down the frequency, and then as we kind of go up, we go up the frequency. Just in my brain just gives me a little bit more sort of tidiness. And then each of the oscillators go to their relative filter. So oscillator 1 goes into filter 1, oscillator 2 into filter 2, vice versa. And then the same with the envelopes. Oscillator 1 going into envelope 1, oscillator 2, envelope 2, etc., etc. So first oscillator is this saw wave, 4 voices. This has got inside Zebra 2, it's got the oscillator effects, and I've used a bit of brilliance, which kind of accentuates some of the higher harmonics, just gives it a little bit of brightness to it. And then the other thing I've done here as well is just kind of soften that saw a little bit. I find it sort of helps just softening it by just pulling these back a little bit here. Now, you obviously can't do this in every synth, but if you can, give it a try out. I did a video recently on super saws, which you can check out as well on the channel about why I do this. But it just kind of takes a bit of that sort of sharpness to the top end away from it. So this is going into filter 2. So this is the resonance band filter, and this is why I like to put them all into different filters, because I'm really kind of layering them up and making sure that each oscillator is doing what I want it to do inside this sound. So this is somewhat like the first one, and again it's obviously going through to this filter here, so I'm just going to leave this filter open for the moment. So we've got oscillator 2 going into filter 2, and filter 2 is the band pass one. Now what I've got happening with the filter 2 is it's mapped to LFO2, LFO2, and this is on sort of like a sample and hold style LFO, and it's just basically getting it and just doing this a little bit, getting the filter and just kind of doing this a little bit every 8th note, just a tiny little amount, just to kind of give it that little bit of movement. Again, I wanted this to have quite a lot of movement, this lead sound, so each different one you'll start to see there's slightly different bits of movement on each of them. So this is sent through to LFO2, and it's there sent through again a little bit of resonance, some key filtering there, key follow there as well. So that's oscillator 2. It's going through to envelope 2, and then envelope 2 is just kind of shaped like this, bit of decay, some release for when I kind of open up the filter. So it's going to sound nice and bright when it's kind of opened up, or got some nice bit of release when it's opened up. So that's that. Then I've got oscillator 1. So oscillator 1 is essentially there to anchor the lower frequency. So if I put it on its own, now obviously there's quite a bit of high-end sort of information there. This is again just a copy of oscillator 2. Oscillator 2 was, sorry, it's not a complete copy. The saw wave is as well, but there's 2 voices in this one. And then this has still got the brilliance on there. Probably not needed because I'm filtering out quite a lot of it, and it's essentially a low frequency sound that I'm wanting it to, well, cover. So that's that. Again, this is the width on this one is monoed as well as oscillator 2. That's also monoed, because I'll explain why in a minute. I wanted something in the center and I wanted something wider, but that will be covered in a little bit as well. So oscillator 1 is this. Now the idea of this sound is it's dropped down an octave and pushed through a low pass filter this time, not a band pass. So it's there to give that low end rumble to the sound, because as I say, that band pass filter, as it's kind of sweeping up and down like this, it can kind of lose some of those low frequencies. So this kind of sits underneath it, so to stop it from sounding thin in certain areas. So that's that, and that's then going to envelope 1. This time it's just the cutoff, is going to envelope 1, and the actual shape of it is going to envelope 1, and it's also just giving it a little bit of that pluckiness. If I just did this, just to give it that little bit of pluckiness underneath and a little bit of drive underneath. So that's that. And then that's obviously going through to all the main effects, and I'll go through all the main effects at the end. So now what I've got is 2 sort of quite centered sort of sounds, and then I don't think there's anything else happening in those 2. Now the next one is oscillator 3, so let's have a little look at this. What we've got, again, same thing, saw. It's got the brilliance on it. This time it's wider, and this time it's 11 voices. So this is this one. So this is kind of like your big bright super saw lead layer to the patch. And this then goes through to another filter. And this one's actually opened up with it the full way. It does go through to this filter here. So when but this is kind of there so that when the filter kind of opens up, it brightens up the sound as it gets to the top of the filter range. So that's why it's kind of opened up there, really nice and bright. Oscillator 3 goes through to envelope 3, and you'll see here it's got quite a bit of release on it to open up that sound as the filter gets open, because I wanted this to be a lead sound where I'm not messing around with different sort of patches. I want it to sound nice when it's closed, and then as I open it up, it sounds nice too. So that's going through to envelope 3. And not a great deal of modulation on that one. Oscillator 4. Right, okay, so Oscillator 4 is the... This is the one that's got a lot more kind of movement to it again as well. Now, this is another... All of these are the same apart from the amount of voices that are in them. This is 4 voices again. Brilliant effects on there. This is really quite wide as well. Some vibrato. Now, this one is going through to LFO 4, the filter on this one. So whereas the other one, Oscillator 2 filter was kind of doing this with the sample and hold, this Oscillator 4 is kind of doing this because it's going through to LFO 4 every half a beat, and the cutoff's kind of going up and down. It's going up quite a bit. If I open up the filter again. So you can hear it kind of moving around there. And I'll kind of play around with these once I've got the main melody sort of sitting how I want them to. I'll sometimes sort of match the LFOs to kind of how the melody maybe kind of working. So if the melody's kind of going up, I'll see where it's going up and then maybe have it so that the filter's opening up at that time as well. Or I'll do it with automation. It all depends on the sound and the melody and everything else that's going into it. So that's going into envelope 4 again. Again, bit of decay, release time. So let's bring them all back in. And then once I've got them all in like this, I've gone in and I've gone and detuned them slightly to each other by a couple of cents. You'll see here 12.06, 0.5, 0.4 here, and this one's just down the center. So that's the main oscillators there, as I say, all going through to different filters. And if you are confused by Zebra 2, I highly suggest initiating the patch and actually build it like from the ground up, because you start to it becomes more obvious to you once you're adding them rather than looking at a patch and going, wow, where's everything kind of, coming from, where's it going to there. So that's the oscillators. They're all going through to there. Now let's have a little look at the effects section. So let's turn them all off again. So we've got the filter here, the main filter. So this is what's mapped to the mod envelope, which you've seen me playing around with it. Sorry, the mod with. So this is just done through a low pass excite filter here in LFO tool. Why do I keep going to say that? Zebra 2. You can obviously change it and mess around, but I quite like this. It gives a bit of brightness to it. That's set to that. It's got a bit of resonance to it, a little bit of drive, and again, a little bit of key follow. Now, this one also has, you'll see here, this is sent to mmap 2, the cutoff is. So this will be, depending on which key is played, the filter will either close or slightly open up again, just a little bit here, just to, again, give it that little bit of movement. So that's the filter. Next up, we have a phaser. Just again, give it that sort of phased sort of sound there, a little bit of more movement through it. Not a great deal, nothing too crazy, but it's just enough again to give that bit of movement. Now the delay, which I'm dying to turn on because I hate listening to dry sort of sounds. So again, quite a bit of delay on this. You can play around with the delay settings depending on what sort of patterns going into it and stuff like that. You don't have to have the exact same sort of settings, but I just used this for the patch that for the MIDI that I was creating it with. Then I've got some quite heavy compression. And then we have the chorus on afterwards. And then the bit that I'm also dying to put on is the reverb. So this is quite a bit of reverb to it as well, but this is it all playing together with the filter going up and down. So that is kind of how that patch is kind of created. So just a quick recap. Obviously, when we're building lead sounds and stuff, you can build them through multiple different channels and different layers, but inside that preset as well could also be oscillators that are filling out layers of that sound as well. So Oscillator 1 is filling out the low end. Oscillator 2 is again that sort of more down the center, but it's got that more movement to it. Oscillator 3 is that big bright one that kind of sits on top. And then Oscillator 4 again is one with more movement and stuff like that as it starts to open up. So have a bit of an idea. Well, you don't have to, but I have a bit of an idea of the type of sound that I'm wanting to build when I create a patch like this. And then it's in my head. I can sort of visualize it a little bit better. And obviously there's a lot of tweaking and stuff like that. And again, when it comes to being in the actual track itself, I will play around with, sometimes it might need a little bit more low end in that lead sound, or the brightness layer might need to kind of come up a little bit in the oscillators. So yeah, have a little play around and see what you kind of come up with. If you are looking for more tutorials or a more in-depth tutorial on layering trance leads, then you can check out the one that I've got on the website. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. But yeah, hopefully this video has helped you and give you a bit of an insight as to how I would create a one layer kind of lead. It's kind of being covered by all the different oscillators and different frequency ranges and movement and filtering and stuff like that. So yeah, if you haven't also checked out the AM Studios trance production community, be sure to check that out at alanmorrisstudios.com. I'll leave a link in the description below for that also. And yeah, hit that like and subscribe button if you are enjoying the videos, and also let me know in the comment section below if you're enjoying the videos. It just helps let me know what you guys are kind of looking for in terms of videos. So thanks a lot, guys. I will see you in the next one. Ciao.